Hello, good evening, and welcome to our virtual Year 9 Options Parents Information Evening. Thank you for coming. One day we'll get to do these things in person in 3 dimensions, but unfortunately still we have to do it this way. I know you understand why that is, but I think that tonight you'll get a lot of information that's really helpful, regardless of the fact that it may not be face-to-face. And it will be an informed decision that you can make alongside your children about those option choices that they make over the next few weeks. There's a really comprehensive program designed to illustrate to students exactly what they would be getting from the choices that they might be making as they go forward into Year 10. And this evening, Mr. Stones is going to talk through the kind of the broader, bigger picture of the curriculum, and then Mrs. Briggs will be talking through some of the detail of how those choices are made. I won't take a huge amount of time at the beginning. It's really my job to simply introduce the evening itself. However, I would link everything back to this series of statements around what are we standing for as an organisation, as a school, and how does that come together for your children. And the statements on here I've shared with you in the past, and really the option choice package that we make for children reinforces and underpins that sense of what we stand for around the curriculum, around a love of learning, around best possible outcomes for all students. And that broad and balanced curriculum that we offer to students at Norton College is really something which, as I say, underpins the way that this vision statement for the college works. We talk widely about Aspire values, and that acronym, as you can see down the left-hand side, does stand for a whole series of skills and qualities that students will take forward into their wider lives. And it is not just about the subject, but about the skills that they receive from studying those subjects, and the combination of subjects that really does set them up to be best placed for the next stage of progression. And that combination of subjects is something that I'm going to hand over at that point to Mr. Stones to explain to you in more detail. I will come back to you at the very end of the evening just to round things off. Mr. Stones, I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, and good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our Year 9 Information and Options Evening. As Mr. Johnson said there, what I want to do really is outline a little bit more about the process of options, the process that students will work through over the course of the next academic year as they finalise some of those choices, and just let you know what that will look like from your perspective as well as a parent or carer. So I've just started off with this slide in front of you, and you'll see that there is a picture of a document, and that's our options book for 22-23, so the next academic year. And I do hope that you recognise that now, because all students have got a hard copy of that booklet. And if I could just start off this evening by just reiterating the importance of please familiarising yourself with everything in there. There's lots and lots of information, and again, if that generates any questions, if you could please make a note of those so you can discuss them with a member of staff. So in that booklet, I put a little bit of information just to remind you of the GCSE context. I'm going to go through some of that today because it's very, very important. It underpins lots of those conversations that students will have both in school, but also at home. And again, if this generates any questions, please make a note of them as we progress through the evening so that we can find an opportunity to address those for you. So I'm going to primarily outline the options process more holistically. That's very much a part of my role as assistant head teacher here with responsibility for curriculum and assessment. And then towards the end of the session, I will hand over to Ms. Briggs, who's going to talk through some of the logistics and the support that we can offer to students as they make these decisions. So most of the qualifications that we offer in years 10 and 11 are GCSEs. You may already be aware, and apologies if you are, but you may already be aware that that there have been significant changes in the GCSE landscape recently. The last changes came through in 2019, and in many ways that feels like forever ago, but in many other ways actually that's still very recent. So I'm just going to outline what those changes look like. For most GCSE programs there is a new grading scale. That grading scale is grade 9 to 1, with 9 being the top grade, and in most of those GCSE programs assessment is mainly by examination. In a very small number of cases other types of assessment are used, but principally that's only where those other types of assessment are needed to test essential skills. And one helpful example to think about would be science, for example, with practicals. GCSEs, largely speaking, offer new, more demanding content than the old GCSEs, and all of the courses that we offer are designed for 2 years of study, so that will be year 10 and year 11. The courses are not divided into different modules. Students will take all of their exams at the end of the course, and again that's consistent across the GCSE offer. Exams are only split into foundation tier and higher tier if one exam paper does not give all students an opportunity to show their knowledge and abilities, and I'll come on to that a little bit later, but it's relevant to some subjects, for example, science. So as I just said, the new scale runs from 9 to 1. 9 is the highest grade. How does this map to the old system that you may be familiar with, the A star to G? Although we can't necessarily draw direct comparisons, what we certainly can do is look at, broadly speaking, how one system translates to the other. And a grade 5 is roughly equivalent to the BC that you may be familiar with. The same proportion of students who achieved a grade C or above will now achieve a grade 4 and above. According to the Department for Education, a grade 4 is a standard pass and a grade 5 is widely understood to be a strong pass. And the grade 9 is above the current A star, so it's more rigorous. And a grade 1 is the equivalent of a grade G. So that, broadly speaking, is how the two systems work with one another. And I've just outlined that on this diagram that you'll see here. So broadly, the same proportion of students achieve a grade 7 and above as the proportion that historically achieved a grade A and above. And as I just said, the DFE has determined that the grade 5 is a strong pass and the grade 4 is a standard pass. We do also have a range of subjects which are GCSE equivalent subjects, and students in year 10 and 11 can study those level 1 and 2 qualifications as part of their broader programme of study. Those qualifications include awards, BTECs and Cambridge Nationals, and as I said, they are the equivalent of the GCSE in terms of the weight of the qualification. Most of those also have an examined component. That's a written exam for all subjects apart from performing arts at the moment, and that's a practical exam rather than an exam that's written. Beyond that, those courses are normally assessed by coursework and in some cases internal assessment, and subject teachers are really well placed to have those conversations with students about the assessment modes that are used within their subject area. Those courses are passed at a level 1, pass, merit and distinction, or a level 2, pass, merit, distinction and distinction star. And you'll see from this diagram here how that looks roughly when you think about it in terms of the GCSE grades. So level 2 distinction star being the highest point of achievement, down to the level 1 pass, which is broadly comparable with the grade 1. So what will the options offer look like for our students? So all students will study English, maths and double or triple science, and alongside English language, students will also study English literature. So they are two separate GCSEs. For students who study double science, that gives them a combined double GCSE grade. So for example, 4-4 or 4-5 or 5-5, and triple science, which runs a little bit differently, and I'm going to outline that in a few slides time, gives students 3 separate GCSE grades. So for example, grade 5, grade 6 and grade 8. The thing I want to emphasise here, particularly because it's a change from previous years, is that students who do opt to do triple science will pick up the additional 5 hours that triple science requires as one of their options. So that would count as one of the students' options choices to convert double science to triple science. And that makes sure that we can give them the time that they need through the curriculum. In science, students will see either higher tier or foundation tier. On the higher tier, grades 9 to 4 are available, and on the foundation tier, grades 5 to 1 are available. And again, the subject teacher, particularly at events like Parents' Evening, will be really well placed to have a conversation with you if you've got any queries about how that process works. And all of those courses are assessed by linear examination at the end of year 11. So the assessments come at the end of the 2-year programme. In addition, we also expect students to study a foreign language, so that's GCSE French, and a humanity, so that would be history or geography. And that's to make sure that we give all students access to a broad curriculum. Why do we expect all students to follow a broad curriculum? The research is very, very clear. We know that a language GCSE gives students an edge when applying to a wide range of degree courses. If they're not necessarily thinking about university, then we know it can be very advantageous for apprenticeships and other alternatives. And more importantly, languages prepares students to compete in what is now a global jobs market. It's no longer national, it's a global jobs market. And we need to make sure that we're putting children in the right place to compete in that market. And there's just some interesting research here that I wanted to share with you. Around 3/4 of employers who responded to a skills survey said that they wanted students to have foreign language skills, and that's very much part of our drive here to give students the broadest possible education. As I said, young people will compete for jobs, not just with others from around the UK, but in a global economy. And that's why a broad curriculum is so important. But it's also crucially important for those students who are considering university as their next destination. We know that when we look at Russell Group universities, they expect students to have a broad range of GCSEs, and you'll see that in the second bullet point here. These are subjects that have been identified by the Russell Group, the top 24 universities in the country, as giving access to the widest range of subjects at degree level. So this is about giving students opportunities. Now, this picture that I've put here really demonstrates how I'm encouraging students to think about their options choices. And you'll see we've got lots of different things coming together to give one sense of direction. And that is exactly how the options process works. Students must not think about each of their options as something that exists in isolation. Instead, students need to think about that combination of subjects and how that will support them for their next steps. And French, for example, is one perfect example of how that model works. We look at the merits of studying a language on its own, but we must also be very reflective in terms of how that subject, French in this case, supports students with all of their other GCSEs and more wide skills of learning. And that's exactly what we want to bring to this conversation with students. So the English Baccalaureate is a term that I touched on very briefly when we had the information evening, and I want to go through that in a little bit more detail tonight. So the English Baccalaureate, or the Ebac for short, is the absolute foundation of what we consider to be a broad and balanced curriculum. And that's not just here at Norton College, it's more widely in terms of other schools, and it's also in line with the government's vision for what constitutes a broad education. And the Ebac gives students access to English and mathematics, as I outlined earlier, 2 sciences, so that would be double science, but triple science does also count if students opt for the triple, a modern foreign language, French, and a humanity, geography, or history. And we have created our option blocks to facilitate students to be able to access that combination of subjects. This goes back to what I said a couple of slides ago. Sutton Trust research reveals that studying the Ebac can help improve a young person's performance in English and maths. And that really speaks to that vision that I outlined in terms of students having an understanding and awareness of how studying one subject supports them to be successful in a range of other subjects. So the Ebac itself is made up of those subjects that I've just outlined. They're also the group of subjects that the Russell Group, so remember that's that top group of 24 universities, says opens more doors to more degrees. And again, this is about giving students opportunities to access whatever they want to when they think about their next steps. And research shows that research shows that the subjects that students choose at GCSE determines their opportunities beyond school. And we need to be very conscious of that now, because the decisions that students make now as they move into year 10 will very much influence and determine the opportunities that are available to them later on. Now, the government does expect 90% of students to do the Ebac, and it's important that I share that with you. But I don't want to abdicate responsibility to the government, because this is something that we prioritise. This is something that's important to us, and it's important to us as a school because of the reasons I've just outlined. Most students will be expected to take the Ebac wherever they went. It's not just Norton, and that's because it is so crucially important that students do that core group of subjects as well as a language and a humanity. And if we look to current cohorts, so current year 10, current year 11, most of those students, all of those students, do maths, English, and 2 sciences. And in the future, that default group of subjects is where we will be when we think about languages and humanities. Now, I do pick up some conversations, I do pick up discussions with students, and they may share concerns with me about doing certain subjects. And of course, French is one of the changes that I've highlighted here. And I just want to outline some comments from students on those current GCSE French programmes across year 10 and 11, just to give students an insight into some of those experiences. So if we look at this one on the left, I was worried that I'd be bad and want to change, but now this is one of my favourite subjects. We must not tell ourselves in advance that that's not going to be the case. Universities like languages because they're a facilitating subject, they're fun and interesting, lots of topics are covered, and you will develop confidence and resilience. So we're looking at very wide-ranging skills here that go well beyond the subject itself. I chose this because it makes me stand out from everyone else and it's fun. Some things are hard, but the lessons are always fun and different. And that student has commented there on being pushed outside of their comfort zone. And that's exactly what you should expect as a GCSE student. The student on the right, I chose it because it will be very useful for getting into university and getting a job. So there's some recognition of that global competition that I was talking about earlier. Sometimes it can be hard, as we would expect, especially as my strong points are maths and science, but it's definitely worth it. Some really encouraging comments there from students currently in years 10 and 11. I chose to study a language because it's something I really enjoy. Being able to express your opinion through another language is useful for getting by on holiday and for your future plans. So many different reasons coming through those 5 quotes, and that's why I chose them and wanted to share them with you. So the next thing I want to do really is ask the question, what can parents and carers do to support this process? The first thing that's really important is to reinforce the importance of ensuring options choices offer breadth. And if you can please have that discussion with your child to make sure that their options, the options that they're thinking about, are appropriate in terms of curriculum breadth. Obviously, you will have your English, your maths, your science, your French, and then your history or your geography. Beyond that, there is a conversation around optionality, and that's what Ms. Briggs is going to outline so that you are fully aware of what that optionality looks like. There are a couple of really important messages to take note in there. So, for example, product design and textiles, you can only do one or the other, but Ms. Briggs is going to outline the implications of that and provide some further guidance to support those decisions. Beyond that, if you could please talk to your child about their interests, their subject choices, and their future career. If you could emphasize that this is not about doing the same as their friends, it's not about which teachers they like or which teachers they want to have, it's about working out which options choices are right for that individual student. And that is something that we will pick up as a senior leadership team in one-to-one discussions with those students, where we will make sure that those options have been made for the right reason. And again, that's just an additional safeguard that we build in here to make sure that those choices are suitable. I've also put a couple of links on the bottom of that slide. And again, I would encourage you to please go to those links. They provide some really helpful information about what students might do after GCSE, and they provide some really helpful information about how students can access those opportunities. And it is important to be planning for the future. It is important to have an eye on what you may need, either as a student or in terms of supporting a student. And those 2 links do provide some of that information, and they will be further supported by lots of the careers work that we do internally. So at that point, I'm going to hand over to Ms. Briggs, who's going to take you through the logistics of the programme. And as I said at the start of this presentation, if you could please make a note of any questions that you've got so that your child can discuss them with the mentor, and we can make sure that we get information back to you to support the process. So at that point, I'll hand over to Ms. Briggs. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It's nice to have this chance to talk to you and to just share with you what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks with your students in Year 9. So over the next 2 weeks, they will be hearing some option talks in each of their subjects so that they can make some really informed decisions about their future, about what they want to do. This will all come together when they start to highlight the preferences in the straw poll at the end of the month. And it's really, really important that they actually consider this and take the time to think about what they really want to do, and to actually make sure that they opt for the things that are appropriate to them and they enjoy. It's important that this straw poll is taken seriously, because it will actually help us to put everything together into the option blocks for the final version. Just to recap, if you remember, it's maths, English, double or triple science, French, 1 humanity, and then the 3 options, okay? And it's that 1 humanity and the language that actually gives you that Ebac. So let's look at the straw poll then. So this is when you would be able to indicate which subjects you would like to take. And this will be done and conducted during mentor time. Each group has a slot in which they will go and spend some time actually looking at the straw poll, and prior to that, mentors will go through that with them and make sure that it's really clear about what they need to do on that day. Obviously, there may be an issue if there are insufficient numbers that some courses may not run. So it's really important that you actually speak to your subject teachers and you maybe speak to your mentor about these if you would like some more information before you make this final decision. So remember that we now expect that you have to choose French as well as history or geography. And this combination means that you meet that full requirement for the Ebac. If you'd like to do more than one humanities subject, that is possible by opting for the other humanities subjects in the option 3 or 4. So let's just have a look at the form then that your son or daughter will be looking at. So first of all, option 1 is the French GCSE, and we expect you to be choosing this. Now, if you are concerned about this, then there is a space for you to pop down your information and your reasoning behind this, and then you will have a meeting with a member of the senior leadership team who will just talk through your reasons behind this and really help to reassure you about the path that you should be taking. Option 2 is your history or your geography, your humanities subject. You have to choose one of these subjects. Option 3, you must choose one subject from the list. Now, this is the list of all the other subjects at the moment, okay? Do not choose a subject that you've already chosen. So if in option 2 you've chosen history, don't then choose history again in option 3 or 4, okay? You could choose geography, but not history. And option 4, you get to choose from one more subject from this list again. Just to share with you what the other options are. So I'll just give you a moment to just glance down these. All of the information about these subjects are in your option booklets. You can access these online or you have a hard copy. And if you just note that the textiles and the product design, you cannot study both of those. There is a crossover with some of the subject that you learn there, so you cannot study both of those. So how do you choose them? So you read about all of the subjects in your options booklet. That should be already have been looked at home, but if it hasn't, now's the time to just ask your child where the booklet is and just actually spend some time going through it. Think about what you enjoy, okay, really important. This is 2 years of study to do something that you really enjoy. Think about a subject that you're doing well in. Don't think about what teacher it might be. Really focus on your future and what you want from this. This is your 2 years, year 10 and 11. And do you want to study something new? Because in our list of options are several subjects that you've not had the chance to study very much before or not at all. So have a look at those. And if you're unsure, please ask the staff. When you hear your talks this week and next week, please have some questions and really make sure you're making an informed choice. In mentor time, we've spent several sessions looking at your future career, what might interest you. We've looked at universities, we've looked at what you need to get on these pathways. And it's really, really important that you pull all this information together when you're trying to make this decision. Please, please, please don't base your choice upon what your friends are going to do. It's so important. This is about you and not about your friends. This is your future. So let's just have a look then at the timetable, what we're doing. So this week and next week, you will receive your option talks. And then next week, that's 24th of January, The options will be delivered during the mentor time, okay? Some extra ones that you don't have a lesson in already, so that all of these new subjects, you can learn about those too. Then you have a week to digest that, and then on the 31st of January and the 1st of February, we'll start the straw poll. Very quick turnaround. On the 7th of February, you will get your official option form issued. And then we have parents' evening, and it's really important at that point that you maybe come with your option booklet, with your option form, talk to the staff, talk to the students maybe who've been on that course already, so that you're really informed about what you want to choose. The option forms are due back by the 17th of February. So again, you only have 1 week after parents' evening to make those final decisions. And then after that, there will be some interviews, and those will be conducted by senior members of staff. And finally, you'll be informed of your final choices of which options that your child has managed to opt for. Thank you. So I'm going to hand over now to Mr. Johnson to just conclude the evening. Thank you.
So thank you to Mr. Stones and to Mrs. Briggs for a lot of information that you've been given there. And I know that might feel a little bit overwhelming to you as parents at the moment, let alone to your children. But there's quite a significant amount of time over which to make these choices, and they should be informed choices. What I would encourage you to do is to make time to sit and talk these through with your children, because actually that kind of rounded balance on exactly what does a full option choice look like is something that possibly only you can really engage with your children around over the course of the next few weeks in a way that is really genuinely meaningful. We are beholden to what is often given to us by the government in our curriculum, and Mr. Stones has explained that very clearly. So there are certain choices that children do have and certain choices that they don't have, and that's common to all schools. But ultimately, as I said at the beginning, it is about a broad and balanced curriculum which gives children the best possible opportunities in life going forward. And that's what we're looking to construct here, is a choice which allows children to thrive in areas that are their strengths, but also gives them a foundation for future progression and future destinations alongside that. So as I said, there is a lot of information there. There's a lot still to come over the next few weeks. Your children undoubtedly will talk to you about what they're experiencing in school, in particular around some of those subjects which are new to them, and they're exciting and different, but they need to be put in the context of things that they do know alongside. So a lot to take in. The hard copy of the booklet has gone home already. There is an electronic copy of that booklet on the school website and has been sent to you as parents as well. So there should be a lot of information that you can draw upon. Please do so. Please contact us if you have any questions about the process over the course of the next few weeks as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. As I said at the beginning, I'm really sorry that you didn't get to see us in person. Hopefully that will happen at some point in the near future. Thank you very much though for joining us. At that point, I will bid you good night.